So welcome, Tamara. Everyone, we're here today with Tamara Gropper. Tamara is a professional coach and organizational and educational consultant. She's Coactive Training Institute certified with ACC status with the International Coach Federation. She works primarily with leaders in all industries, women stepping into their strength, and people of means looking to make meaning in their lives.
Mhm.
Tamara believes in trusting her intuition and enjoys the power of transformation possible when clients access their own wisdom as she works with them to navigate the next twist or turn they face in life.
Mhm.
She holds space for her clients to tune into what truly matters and set the course to living a life of meaning and purpose. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Lily. It's so nice to be here with you.
So, Tamara, can you tell us some more about your path to coaching?
Mhm.
You have an amazing background in educational leadership. I'd love to know what brought you into the coaching world.
So thank you for the question. I always love reflecting on what brought me into coaching because I find that I find it's a common story in some ways. So I had a career, an ongoing career in the field of Jewish education. And a lot of that work involves consulting to congregations, to educators and teachers and lay people within congregational educational school enterprise. And also a lot of mentoring. I've been working as a mentor to students in an executive master's in Jewish education program at Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion for many years. And the mentoring has always had an agenda with it, just like the consulting always had an agenda with it.
Oh,
And I found that for myself, I often kind of rubbed up against the agenda in favor of just listening to the person. And I often got the feedback from the people I was working with that they felt listened to and respected. And on the agenda side, I would be asked to push a little harder, like, let's make sure we get to our institutional agenda that we want these people to be a part of.
mm-hmm.
At some point, a lot of my work was grant funded. And at some point, there was not a foreseeable, obvious next grant to step into. And so I thought I'd take some time to figure out what some of my vision and mission might be, since I did that a lot with the people I worked with. And one of my mentors said, I just took these courses at that point, it was the Coach Training Institute. And I think you might really like them because it might really line up with how you engage and how you see some of your strengths. I said, okay, I'll give it a try. So I took my first course, the fundamentals course with now the Coactive Training Institute. Um, and I just felt like, okay, this is real. This is real. There's no role play. There was no PowerPoint. There was no, kind of strategizing all the things that have to happen, that all the clients need to go through. It was just bring your life.
Yeah.
I found that to be incredibly compelling. And so I signed up for more and found myself, not only was I suddenly embracing a different way of engaging with people, I started my own coaching business. I had always worked with entrepreneurial people and never thought of myself in that way. And then there I was.
Wow.
I've continued in my work as a mentor with the master's program in Jewish education. And I continued to have a relationship with the Jewish Education Project, where I was doing most of the consulting, co-leading a network. But my heart is really the coaching. The coaching has started to impact everything that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I can no longer separate when I'm mentoring a student. I know there's an agenda, but I'm asking coaching questions to get them to make space for them to really open and share what it is that they're learning and how it's impacting them personally and where they imagine applying it professionally as they're going through their coursework.
You
So
mentioned something really important that I would love to tease out a bit more for the audience. And that has to do with the distinction between consulting and coaching. That idea of having an agenda in one and having outcomes or aims that you're holding as the consultant for your client versus what it's like in the coaching relationship between the coach and the coachee. Um, and that you can also apply that to mentorship relationships. So for the benefit of those listening in who haven't experienced coaching yet, can you tell us a little bit more about that nuance? What is it like when the agenda goes out the window, the proverbial window, if you will? What's possible?
Oh, everything. Um, I I would say that with, when you're working as a consultant, you are moving people usually towards an institutional goal,
Mm,
not a personal goal. And um, therefore you have to represent in that way. You have to represent the institution that you have been hired by, and also the one that you are working for.
mhm.
So you have to carry almost two agendas, right, in that process. And in in grant work, which was often where I was, we had funders who had expectations. So
Right.
there were like multiple layers of expectation that were there from the outset. And then whoever we were working with had to fit into those. In coaching, it's completely the opposite. You start with the person, right? The coaching that I certainly have been the most engaged in, which is I'm not working within an institution. I'm not working for a company. I'm working for myself. And clients who come to me are individuals that are looking to shift how they're existing in the world, to take another step in terms of their professional career, maybe to have a different relationship with people in their lives in general. And so I really do begin with them. I have questions I ask them to kind of begin to get from them who they are and what they're about. But ultimately, the direction of the work is in their hands. I'm there to
Mhm.
guide it, I'm there to support it. I am not there to dictate where they should wind up at the end of a certain amount of time.
Yes. And that is such an amazing, freeing, and creative space
Hmm.
for people to be in.
That's right.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
So thank you for giving that a bit more of an explanation for the
Sure.
listeners. Very powerful. I was curious also in terms of your work in education, how do you find that this work in education becomes translatable to many different types of organizations and situations?
So the work that I've always done in education, one is to help people be aware of, on the organizational side, what is driving them, what do they want to accomplish. So that's very kind of goal oriented. Um, but also paying attention to all of the different people who are involved in that system.
Yes.
So that's translatable in, I think, into any kind of setting, right? You can have your ideas, but if you're not paying attention to the people that you're serving, the people who are engaging with you work wise, they're not going to go very far. So when I'm mentoring students in the executive master's program, part of what happens to them over the course of the 2 years that they're there is they are stepping into their vision of themselves as leaders.
Mm,
Often people find themselves in a position, whether it's education or any other industry, someone has said, "We think you're really good at this. Go ahead and do it."
yeah.
And even if they have certain skills, they don't see themselves that way. And if there's a leadership component involved, one could argue there's leadership in any role that you're in, but if there's a specific leadership component that's being asked of you, and you don't see yourself in that role, there's going to be a mismatch.
Hmm.
So to be able to kind of say, all right, so one, what does it mean to be a leader, and how do I want to lead? What does it look like for me specifically to lead? And that's work that everybody can benefit from.
Absolutely. Tamara, you mentioned in a previous conversation that you have some training, some grounding in positive intelligence. For those listeners who are not familiar with that framework, can you describe positive intelligence and tell us a little bit about how you became interested in it?
I'd be happy to. Um, I had heard about, first of all, positive intelligence is really the brainchild of Shirzad Shamin. He has a book called Positive Intelligence and has been out for a while and translated into many languages. And he has a mission to literally to change millions of lives. That's how he describes it. And I had heard about his work through actually the same mentor who directed me to CTI to begin with, and had thought it was interesting. It took the idea of in coaching. One of the things we talk about is that we all have a leader within. We all have like a core sensibility that guides us when we are in our absolute best moments.
Yes.
And we also have saboteur voices. We also have the voices that want to drown that leader out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had already kind of stepped into the idea that we carry both of these through my training with CTI. Shirzad, he comes with that sensibility, but he has taken the idea of a saboteur in a very much more nuanced direction. So he has, through a lot of research, determined that there are 9 different saboteurs. We all carry a judge. Everybody has a judge. Everybody. And then there are 9 saboteurs, each of which have a particular kind of profile, and they work as accomplices to the judge. So one of my biggest saboteurs is the avoider.
Oh.
Right? I've been procrastinating my whole life. I knew that. But to put it in the context of it being a saboteur, but actually telling me that I can't actually get going on things I want to get going on, and training me to hear that voice instead of the voice that says, oh, you've got this, just step in. That's really the core of his work, is being able to move from the negative voices that are telling you that you can't do the things that you want to be doing in life for all kinds of different reasons, to quiet those voices using a variety of what he would call self-command techniques, positive intelligence repetitions, which are like, you go to the gym, moderate, go to the gym, and you got to work out, and you got to strengthen your muscles to be able to do that effectively. And similarly, we have mental muscles that need to be strengthened, muscles in our brain that need to be strengthened to quiet the saboteur voices and to be able to tune into the sage part of our brain, which is the leader within, is that sage concept that can allow you to innovate, to have empathy.
And that's so important. I just wanted to highlight how important that is, because looking at the saboteur model, you're really talking about negative self-talk and limiting beliefs.
That's right.
These are precisely the things that hold us back from stepping into ourselves as leaders, holding us back from growing as individuals, from taking that next foray in life, in our professional careers, our personal lives. And there was this study that I recently became aware of, and it's a neuroscience psychological related study that looked at thought patterns, right? Habitual thought patterns in people. And I believe it was somewhere upwards of 85% of thoughts are the same as the thoughts you had yesterday, each day.
Wow.
And that more than 60%, 60 to 75% are negative thoughts. So that is unfortunately the survival system that we work with as individuals. And it does take a concerted effort to listen to the sage, to listen to that guiding voice in yourself, that empowering voice.
That's right. And in some cases, you may not have heard it for such a long time. You don't even know what you're listening for. Right? And even before I started doing the positive intelligence, that was a very strong sense that I had in working with clients, which is that they've been so busy taking care of other people, doing all the things they're supposed to do, that they have actually forgotten what their own voice sounds like.
Yeah.
And to be able to tune back into that allows you to then hear it. Then you know what you're listening for, right? So you got to quiet the other voices so that then you can realize that you have your own that's strong and worthy and valuable.
Beautiful. With that in mind, can you tell us about your unique model for coaching? How do you bring positive intelligence into the fold? How do you allow people to tune into that inner voice, that sage that you described?
So the positive intelligence piece is relatively new for me. I'm in training on that.
Okay.
And so I'm dabbling in it, I'll say.
Mhm.
I'm leading my own group through their program right now, and which is giving me a great opportunity to practice bringing those concepts into what I'm doing with them
Mhm.
on a regular basis. And I'm finding there's a very natural fit there. Um, I spend a lot of time talking to my clients about what's actually important to them.
Yes.
What are their values? What are the things that make them get up in the morning? This is not new stuff, right? We've heard this for a long time. That what is your why, right? All of that.
Hmm.
But I think what I really do is create the space and ask the questions that allow them to pause and consider what they actually think, not what they're supposed to say, not what someone else told them to say, but what do they actually believe?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of when I first meet with them, we do kind of trying to do some exercises to try and access their values. How would they describe their values? Sometimes it's really simple language. I like family. Um, I want peace in the world. But those are the beginning, and then we start to dig underneath those, right? What does that really mean to you? So one of the things that I definitely do as a regular practice is not to stop at the first response that I get to a question,
Hmm.
to keep digging underneath it, to suggest what I'm hearing, to mirror that back. For some people, that no one has ever done that for them before. No one has ever said, "Oh, so this is what you mean." So that the person has a chance to say, no, actually, that is not what I mean. Let me say it differently. Or, yes, that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
And what do I think about that now? Um, the other piece that I hold, and this comes actually from my work as a mentor, is the idea of an enduring dilemma. The idea that there are certain values that are always going to be in tension with each other, right? So if you feel strongly about supporting your family, that is always going to have some tension and I don't want to say conflict, but tension with the idea that you want to care for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's never going away, right? So it's
Wow.
not a question of saying, I'm done caring for my family, it's all about me. Or I'm done caring about me, it's all about my family. Or I'm done caring about my family, it's all about my work.
Yeah.
Every time you do that, you find yourself unhappy. So the work, I think, is to be able to identify the values that are most important to you, to look at the places they may be in tension.
Hmm.
And that awareness of the tension gives you the chance to be a choice as to what you're going to do at any given moment, right? The
Yeah.
idea that you're really in control of your life. It's similar to the coaching around emotions that you might be having
Hmm.
in a given situation. The more that you're aware of the emotions you're having, you can choose what you want to do with those emotions. How do you want to respond to them,
Hmm.
right? So that sense of awareness pervades the work that I do. And my clients at some point, I find them saying, okay, I know the question you're about to ask me. So let me just go ahead and answer it before you even have to ask me. Because they know I'm going to keep pushing them to get to a place that's real and authentic and
Yeah.
represents who they really are and who they really want to be.
I think it's so powerful that you raise this concept of values that are in tension with one another, not conflict, but tension, and using that as the basis for further exploring how to create some balance and peace.
Mm-hmm.
How to become real and authentic when you can actually get to the root of what perhaps is causing some dissonance in the most strongly held beliefs you have, right?
That's right.
That is powerful and insightful work.
Mhm.
And so many people, unfortunately, because of our busy lives and the way that we are raised to think and the way that we are perhaps raised to put our own needs on the back burner, can rarely get there.
That's
Um,
that's
takes
right.
a lot of dedicated contemplation and also, as you said, a mirror reflecting back, someone there doing the deep listening, listening with curiosity.
Mhm.
Um,
As I'm listening to you, I'm realizing I'm just feeling gratitude for um, one of the things that Shirzad has said many times is your whole life has led you to this point. Every single piece of it has led you to wherever you are in this moment.
mm,
And the challenge is to see every piece of that path as a gift.
yeah.
And as you were just talking, I had people's voices coming into my head that had kind of at various points been offering their wisdom, not because they said, "Oh, you're going to be a coach someday," but because when we were working together, one of my mentors, Sid Weissman, would say, "The wisdom is in the room." Right? She would always
Mm,
kind of bring that idea that everybody around you has something to offer the conversation. We talk about being a non-anxious presence as consultants when people are talking to you. If you're getting anxious, right? And so pieces like that just have continued to weave themselves into the work and this enduring dilemma piece as well. I mention that because I, my career for years and years was specifically in Jewish education and specifically in that realm. And part of my journey has been to figure out the tension between the value of remaining within the Jewish context
mhm,
and the value of stepping outside of the Jewish context into the non-Jewish world, which when you're married to a rabbi can be challenging to do. And
mm.
so the coaching has really afforded me that opportunity to bring all that I had and then apply it out in other ways. And that's a different set of value tensions, right? In terms of the professional path that you might be on, and to find the ways to, to weight one over the other, depending on where you are in your journey.
Yeah, yeah, and this really also ties into this theme of discovering, really mining around your values, living your values, and
Mhm.
using this framework to move your values into action.
Yes.
And I know this is a concept that's deeply integral to the work that you do with clients. Can you tell us some more about moving values to action?
Mm. So um, I had a client who was interested in political office
Hmm.
and made a decision at some point that even though things were not looking good, that she, she really wanted to hold the idea of grit and leaving nothing, putting it all out there, right? Having no regrets, no
Mm,
regrets. And so that became kind of the mantra that guided her path through the election cycle. And she ultimately was not successful. But the relief, the sense of relief, and I think the sense of of I guess relief is the one that I'm going to hold right now. The idea that she had held she had held on to not having any regrets had allowed her to get all the way to the end and not look back and say shoulda, woulda, coulda, like all the different things. There were pieces of that, but overall, she knew that she had done it in a way that was authentic to her.
ah,
Even at points where people were suggesting she take a particular path, a particular approach, when it didn't ring true, she would hold up that no regrets meter and
mhm.
say, no, I'm not going to do that way. I'm going to go this way because I want to make sure that when I get to the end, I can look myself in the mirror and say I did it the way in a way that's authentic to me, right? So that's just one example. I have another. young woman I'm working with who is on a school board. And similarly there, right? How do you hold your values in the midst of messy situations,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Competing agendas, um, politics at its best, right? How do you hold that? So I think with each person I work with, it's not. I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to listen. I do much more listening than talking. But at the end of the day, I want them to then say, okay, so what does it mean to live it? What does it mean to actually put it into your life? What are all the different kinds of moments in which you can bring the things that are most important to you alive? And then once you've had a taste of that, what does it feel like to really kind of pay attention to what was that like to
Mm-hmm.
say no regrets? I have no regrets. What is it like to say that you have lived the value of relationship? And where else do you want to do it? Right. So then it just starts to build upon itself in a positive way.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Tamara, you had mentioned that you want to work more with clients with this idea of people of means who want to make more meaning in their lives.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? And who are these people and what do you see them doing in the world?
So I have of late, over the past 8 months or so, 8 months, um, become very aware of the incredible amount of privilege that I carry in the world. I think I've always instinctively understood that in some ways, but not at all in the ways I do now. Starting back in June of 2020, in response to the murder of George Floyd and all of the protests that erupted after that, um, and our inability to look away from what was happening,
Hmm.
um, I decided that it was time for me I needed to understand what this was about, and I needed to understand my role in it. And started, volunteered to lead a small group of coaches who were interested in working through Layla Saad's book, Me and White Supremacy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I am still meeting with that group. We are a group of 4. We are from different backgrounds, different countries in some cases, and have had an ongoing conversation about each of our roles in um, upholding systemic racism in this country and other countries. And we have each challenged each other to take action around that, not to just have the conversation, but to do something. So I am now just towards the end of co-leading a book group here in my local community. And what's become clear to me is that there are many, many people in this country, in particular, the one I know the best, that want to make a difference, that are waking up to the depth of racism in this country, historically, in present day, and are deeply uncomfortable that they have been a part in any way of maintaining that system,
Mm-hmm.
and want to change it. So dismantle it, take different steps, how they're leading their lives. And for those that are interested in making meaning out of their privilege,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to be having that conversation with them. I'd like to be thinking with them about what that could look like. So now you know, now you're awake.
Mm-hmm.
What comes next?
And in moving beyond, how does values centered coaching relate to anti racism work? And maybe how does that lead into making a difference in the world with charitable activities, with giving?
I think that there's often a disconnect between the values you say you hold and the way you are um, sharing your privilege, sharing your wealth, sharing your means.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So um, my my working assumption is that if you can get clear on what's important to you and then really look in the mirror about how you're living that,
Mm-hmm.
that is going to naturally lead you to want to take action and where possible to donate your time, to donate your money, to advocate in your at your within your school district for better hiring practices, for spaces to talk about diversity within the school. You might want to talk to your police board. You might want to talk to your town council. Look around and say, so who are the people of color in my life? Do I have any people of color in my life, or do I just look from the outside? And how can I change that? How can I intentionally put myself in spaces where I actually can be exposed to people of color so I understand their stories, so I can listen and learn, not tell, not direct what should happen, but understand what's needed. Um, we have to flip it around. We have to learn to listen and support in that way. So there's pretty much any direction that someone would like to go, there's a space for that approach,
Mm-hmm.
as long as it centers the people, as long as it centers people of color, rather than the person doing the offering. Um, So, in conversations I've had with people about this, some people are just hungry for that opportunity, hungry to learn. What could I be doing? How could I make a difference?
Right.
Others are still back, on their back foot. I'm not so sure this is for me. I'm not an activist. I'm not someone who actually takes action in this way. I'll just send a check, but um, I want to encourage people to take another step.
You so aptly described this as heart work, right?
Mm-hmm.
What might people discover in a coaching session that can create a deeper alignment and more meaning around social impact?
I want to say that part of the coaching experience is getting honest with yourself about who you are,
Yeah.
right?
Mic drop after that.
If you can
Yeah.
do that, then you can begin to appreciate what else you can be doing in the world, what your potential is.
Mm,
I think we're at a point in time where there's a single person who does not have a role to play in making this planet better for everybody involved,
yeah.
right? And you can pick your direction. I'm deeply invested right now in anti-racism work. We've got a climate in trouble. We've got an education system in trouble. We've got
Mhm.
a prison system that needs to be dismantled and reimagined. We have countries who don't know how to talk to each other. We've got families who don't know how to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So if you know what's important to you, you can find your place. And once you find your place and stand in it with authenticity and power, then your gift can come through. And that, as it happens, is a very Jewish concept of human beings.
Mm,
It's the idea that every human being is unique. You exist because you have a gift to bring to the world. Otherwise, why would you exist? So the trick is to figure out what your gift is, and nobody can tell you what that is. It's yours to discover. It's yours to discover. Um, and for me, through coaching, I have uh, found that my tendency to listen more than I speak has actually been um, created an avenue for people to hear things in themselves that had gone silent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to hear things in themselves that have gone silent.
Mm.
Yeah. What a gift.
It's a joy to be able to bring it, to know that I have it. It took me a long time to understand that that was something that I had to offer, that
Yeah.
that was kind of on the level of gift,
Mm,
uh, right? I mean, that's the saboteur. Those voices.
right.
No, not so much. Not that one. Maybe there's a different one you can bring, right? Maybe that's not the right one. Maybe it's not time yet. Maybe you haven't thought it through enough. So many voices in our head that keep us from just standing in our strength and our power and our essence. Shazad would say, in your essence, and and holding on to the uniqueness that you have to offer.
Hmm.
It's a very when you have a taste. As I mentioned that before, when you taste that, when you have that feeling in your body, you can
Yeah.
feel it in your body, right? It does not live in your head.
Right.
It lives in your body,
It's
and,
enlivening,
right? So
electric. Hmm.
if you know it, if you can feel it, you then you can train your brain that that's actually the feeling you're going for.
Right. Yes.
'Cause, yeah,
So, Tamara, as we bring our beautiful conversation to a close, I'd wonder if you could share with the listeners your top three pieces of advice or words of wisdom, if you will, that you would place on a billboard for all to see around unlocking the gifts in their hearts.
unlocking the gifts in their hearts. The first is remember to hear your own voice.
Mm.
Remember to hear your own voice. The second is privilege is meant to be shared.
Hmm.
It is meant to be shared. And I would say the third is you are most powerful when you are fully yourself.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well said.
thank you.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak of this heart work and to get to know you as a coach, your approach much better. And I know that there are so many people out there who will benefit from working with you and from having heard this interview.
Thank
So
you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to think, to answer questions. I do a lot of questioning, so it's great to have space to think of my own answers. I really appreciate this.
absolutely, absolutely. So on that note, we'll
Yeah.
bring it to a close. Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you so much.